Hey everybody, welcome to New Zealand's Biggest Gap Year, an epic challenge that my partner Laura and I decided to tackle a few years back. We had to do 365 activities all around New Zealand in 365 days. And today is day 216 and we are exploring the Christchurch Botanic Garden and the beautiful Canterbury Museum.
Today we are not only checking out two free things to do in Christchurch, but two things that are easily accessible right from Christchurch city centre. We're heading to the Botanic Gardens and the Canterbury Museum. We park up at the Botanic Gardens and head straight towards this really awesome sculpture and one of the many art pieces that you can see around the gardens. There's heaps of ducks here, loads of different wildlife, and they're going pretty crazy for all the bread people are throwing into the pond for them. However, we don't stay here for too long because there's 21 hectares of the Botanic Gardens to explore. So we hit one of the many walking trails, walking past beautiful flower beds and going first to check out the New Zealand garden with lots of native New Zealand plants, and then to this really awesome glass house which is full of really interesting and wild exotic vegetation.
This tropical garden is only one of the many features of the Christchurch garden. There is also an azalea and magnolia garden, an Asian garden, a rose garden, a water garden, a New Zealand garden, a fragrant garden, a herb garden, a herbaceous border, and a heritage rose garden. That's a lot of stuff to see in only one of the many gardens of the city. And as soon as we exit this tropical garden, we arrive right in the middle of the rose garden. There is a sundial right in the middle, which is a really good opportunity to learn how to use a sundial just in case we get lost in the wood. But one of the main features of the rose garden is obviously the beautiful fragrance all around. Obviously, the bees are going absolutely crazy for all the roses all around. They are having a real feast. But Laura and I are taking the time to smell all the different ones. It's actually really crazy how many of those roses have actually a very different smell. It's really interesting and something that I never really paid attention to before. It's a really great thing to learn about today.
It actually smells really nice. It smells like the flowers I never got for my Christmas present. Joking.
Among the many different themed gardens, there's loads of different walkways, so you could literally take a different passage through the Botanic Gardens every time you walk through here. And that's probably why the Botanic Gardens are actually so busy today, full of locals that absolutely love this place. Along one of the walkways, we find one of our favourite features of the Botanic Gardens, which is this awesome water fountain. It sort of works on a clockwork mechanism that you can control yourself with different controls, and it's only one of many water fountains in the gardens. We're going to be heading to probably the most famous photo spot in the gardens, which is the Peacock Fountain. It's surrounded by colourful flower beds.
What's a girl have to do to get some water around here?
And right next to this absolutely gorgeous fountain is the Canterbury Museum. The Canterbury Museum is free of charge. It's the perfect activity in Christchurch for anyone on a budget, and it's also the perfect activity for a rainy day just because it's a museum. The first section of the museum that we spend time in is the Iwi Tofito Exhibition. It is an exhibition about the early Maori that settled in New Zealand and the way of life that they used to have. It's really interesting. There's a lot of toki, which are stone carved by the Maoris, and there is a lot of wooden sculpture as well because they were master crafters back in the days. Because the Maori culture is so far from our own, both Laura and I are from Europe, we spend most of our time in the Maori Exhibition. It's the most fascinating exhibition to us and the most interesting one. The Maori culture is really cool. They had really unique hunting techniques, fishing techniques, as well as carving techniques. This is actually how they were recording their history and the status of everybody in the tribe for the next generation to come. It was all happening through carving. It's amazing.
While the Maori were the first settlers in New Zealand, it was the Europeans that came next, and this is the next exhibition that we're checking out now. This exhibition is called Christchurch Street, which is a mock-up of what the city used to look like back in the day when the early settlers arrived. The next really interesting exhibition that we're checking out is this Antarctica Exhibition, because Christchurch is known as the gateway to Antarctica for nations across the globe. And we learn about some of the early pioneers of Antarctica like Scott and Shackleton, as well as Edmund Hillary, which is known as a national hero here in New Zealand for doing the first motorised crossing across Antarctica. There are also a few temporary exhibitions at the Canterbury Museum, and the one that's here when we arrive is the Air New Zealand exhibition, marking the 25th anniversary of New Zealand's famous airline company. We spent a good couple of hours here at the Canterbury Museum, so we definitely recommend it to anyone exploring Christchurch city centre. But for us now, we're heading back through the lovely botanic gardens once again to our camper van, where we're spending the night at Juicy Snooze.
There's kids throwing bread into the duck ponds and it's like crazy. It's like, yeah, it's like a, I can't say massacre, can I? It's like a massacre of ducks in there trying to get this bread.
Alright, how did you enjoy this video? I hope that you did realize that the Canterbury Museum has a lot of exhibitions that are rotating throughout the years. So definitely this video was shot a few years back, so the exhibition is very different today than it was when we filmed, but at least you can get a gist of what the whole museum is all about. When it comes to the Christchurch Botanic Garden, obviously the flower beds and all the plants are growing and changing, and they're planting different flower displays and things like that. But a lot of the sculptures and structures of the garden are staying the same. So at least you guys got a good understanding about what the city has to offer. And it should show you that the city of Christchurch is definitely worth a spot on your itinerary. A lot of people, they just see Christchurch as just a big city with not much of a soul, but it definitely have an amazing soul of itself, and it's called the City of Gardens or the Garden City actually, for a reason. So let's have a look at some of the comments that we received the first time we published it. Why in the World is giving us a bit of a plug right here, and I'm gonna help you, mate. If you want to check Why in the World's channel, he has an entire hyperlapse done with a GoPro in 4 minutes of the whole museum, so you can check that out on his channel. That's pretty much it. As I said, back in the day when we were doing videos about museum, not that many people were really interested about it. So this is why we only have a little amount of comments. We're not really the most popular YouTubers in the world, let's be honest. We are not, what's the name of that guy? PewDiePie. Here you go. We're not the PewDiePie of the world. Okay, so what can you do to help us become more like PewDiePie? You can hit like and subscribe, so it helps our channel grow. But if you are planning a trip to New Zealand, jokes aside, I have two tools that you may want to get advantage of. Or do get all the advantage of, I don't know. Anyway, the first tool is our live shows. So we run the NZ Travel Show live every single Sunday at 8 AM New Zealand time right here on YouTube. And this is your best place for you to come and ask us all your questions. All we do on that show is to read the comments and answer all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. So we're here to help you plan the best trip in New Zealand. If you feel like more reading, if you're more like a reading person and doing some research, you may want to check out NZPocketGuide.com. It's our baby from Laura and I. We love it so much. We put all our heart and soul into it. And it's the largest travel guide to New Zealand. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of tips for you to plan your trip in New Zealand. There's a whole pre-made itinerary and all our recommendations for accommodations and activities and packing gears and all that. So basically all the hard legwork has been done for you. So all is left for you to do is to enjoy your trip to New Zealand. So you may want to check out the website. It's nzpocketguide.com. That's pretty much everything for me right now. If you hit like and subscribe, it's a great free way to reward all our hard work. If you want to join us on Patreon, you can get yourself a lot of perks, which are not free because in Patreon you have to pay, but there is a link below. And in the meantime, I see you on the next video when we're going to be checking out one of the most epic Lord of the Rings locations. Bye bye.